So now we're going to look at how to create a credit roll in Motion. And the very cool thing about this is that Motion can happily import a text file that you have from another location right into Motion. So you don't need to enter all your text into Motion. So here I have a text file, and this is actually called a scrolling credits template, and I've included it with the tutorial so you can use this for your own purposes and just change the text because it's already been formatted. It's got gutters and it's got a layout of basically a scrolling film credit where you can go in and make any changes that you want to it. But let's see how this works. This is really kind of neat. So this is a text edit file. You see I've got it open in the text edit application. It'll work with any .rtf file. It won't work with a Word doc or a Pages doc. It needs to be saved as an RTF file. Let's go over to Motion. And you can see here I've navigated to the folder that contains this scrolling credits template. If I double click it, it'll open its own window, which isn't really too interesting here because there's nothing to see there. But if I drag it into the project, it comes in perfectly centered and ready to go. There's all my text. And check this out. If you need to make changes, you don't need to go back out to your text editing application. You can double click right here in Motion on it, and you can make any changes that you want to, so I'll make Steve Spencer. And I'll say, Sherry, this is actually Travis here. And then, oh yeah, this guy's not playing John, he's playing Zion. So I can make my little changes, and I can scroll through this all the way and make changes to any part of this text that I want to. Very easy. I'll press Escape to get out of that. And we have this credit roll, but it's not scrolling. So how do we make it scroll? Well, if you might have guessed that we're going to use a behavior to do that. So we go back to the library, to behaviors, to text animation. There's one more in this category we haven't looked at yet, which is this scroll text behavior. And that's what we're going to do now. So I'm just going to drag it right onto that text layer and play, and it just plays. It just works right away. There's some issues with the formatting. We'll fix that in just a minute, but right away it animates, and it animates for the duration of the project. At the start of the project, it's off the screen, and by the end of the project, it's off the screen. So how long should it last? However long you want it to. So you can just change your project duration. In fact, if I select the project itself and go to the inspector, go to Project, Properties, I can change this project. Let's say I really want this to be 30 seconds long. I'll change it to 30 seconds long. And then we'll extend out this play range. We'll select the film title and extend it out to the end. And the behavior gets extended out automatically, and now it lasts for 30 seconds. So you can make it exactly as long as you want. The other thing you can do, if we go to the inspector for this behavior, there's a vertical or horizontal scrolling option. Horizontal would be kind of silly here, but you can see how you can very quickly create a crawl with a whole bunch of text and have a text scroll for a news report or something that runs across the bottom of the screen using this same exact behavior. Let's go back to vertical. The speed control is set to automatic by default, but you can set a fixed speed of a certain number of pixels per second or a custom speed by setting keyframes for the starting and ending position. I usually just leave it at automatic. If you are going out to TV, if you've got interlaced footage, you might want to choose to reduce flicker. You can choose if it's an interlaced or progressive if you've got some flicker in your final result. Creating a text scroll without flicker can be difficult if you're working in traditional TV interlaced kind of environments. But if you're going to the web, things should be fine here. And you can also choose whether or not you start off screen, which I almost always want to start off screen. Those are the basic controls. I usually leave them where they are. But how do we fix this kind of alignment issue? So this is something that's not directly intuitive. What I'm going to do is go to the text inspector, go to the layout. So we're back in this layout section here. And down near the bottom, there are some margins. So if I drag in the right margin control, I can take all of this centered text and that's been centered and recenter it right there. Get it exactly where we want. Then I can take the entire thing and just move it to center it. Now, how do I know it's centered? Let's be more precise. I'm going to turn on the rulers. So Shift-Command-R will turn on the rulers, or from the View pop-up menu, you can turn them on right here. We can see 0 I'm going to drag a guide over to 0. You can see the little tooltip. And it's difficult to get right on 0, so I'm going to hold down Command and Spacebar, zoom in really close, and that'll make it much easier to get this guide on exactly 0, right there. Shift Z to fit to window. And now I can use the little ball on the handle there to line this up in the center. In fact, if I really want to get precise, I can zoom in really closely, and that's pretty right on. Shift Z, I'll drag off that guide, Shift Command R, turn off the rulers, and now I have a nicely centered scroll. Everything else that you do with text, you can do with this RTF file. For instance, changing the actual font that we're using. You could change the font right in here to something else, and it will update. So you have all the controls that you're used to. You don't have to perfectly format everything in your text application, but it makes it super fast and easy to create a credit roll. Now I'm going to add one more thing here. Let's go back to the file browser, and I have an image that I would like to scroll with this. So I want to include it in the text roll. Let's say right around here I want this little movie to show up. Let's drag in this movie. Here it is. Let's scale it down a little bit. And while the text is rolling, I want to see that image roll with it. And by default, it's just going to pop in. It doesn't roll with it at all. But check this out. All you need to do is take this behavior and apply it to the group that contains both the text and any graphics or video that you want included in the text roll. And now that image will move along with the text. Let's see right where it is, right? Let's see where it is here. Let's go back to the beginning and select this image and move it back to the beginning. I'm going to zoom out so I can see where it is. There it is. So it's right down there. And now it comes up and we see it on the screen. This particular video doesn't last very long. I need to make sure it lasts the whole time it's on screen, so I'll move it down a little bit so by the time it appears, it shows up. And it's going to disappear. So what I'm going to do is just slow that video down a little bit so that it will not suddenly pop off the screen. So I'll go to the inspector, to the properties, to timing, and I'm just going to slow that video down to expand it out a little bit. So now as this plays, let me deselect everything, that video will scroll right along with it. As will anything else that you want to add to that group will scroll along with the text as it scrolls along. So easy way to add interest to your credits, because you can add little video clips, other graphics, anything you want you can add right into the design of your credit roll.